The soul doesn't operate on that linear time. It can see all the timelines happening at once, the past, the parallel timelines, and the future ones. But sometimes the ego can try to pull the soul into some outdated past timelines, which is not beneficial to us. If you are interested in this, let's dive in. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sylvia Salo and I help lightworkers, starseeds, priestesses, leaders to remember who they are, to step into their highest potential, and to channel their gifts into creating a life they desire. In this video, I want to talk about timelines. Timelines are always available to us. There are different timelines. Some have bigger likelihood of some events taking place based on our actions, and some timelines are less likely to happen. But all those timelines are always available to us at the soul level, so we may not be consciously aware of them. From the perspective of the soul, imagine that you are like here in the center, and from your center emerge all these timelines leading in all directions, up and down, diagonally, back and forth, and to the sides. They stretch in all directions, and you can access those timelines equally from that centered place of the soul. So when we talk about past lives, they don't necessarily happen in so-called past, but that's a different topic. Now, I want to tell you what happens when the ego gets confused with that time, because the ego prefers to work on that linear time because it's easy to control, it's easy to comprehend. So there's a past, present and future, and that's it. And we move along this imaginary line. So the ego loves that. But now, sometimes, when the soul, let's say, has explored and mastered certain teachings and lessons on some particular timelines that we could call the past timelines, the ego can have tendency to still go back to those timelines even though we have outgrown them. So on more practical level, this could look like that we go back into some outdated old teachings and we try to enliven them again and start like creating our life from those teachings. If this happens, you will always feel like your life is somehow falling apart. Maybe your health, your relationships are falling apart. You have much less energy. And it feels like you are somehow stuck in some kind of loop, or you are moving backward. So in that case, you are not oriented correctly in that time continuum, and you need to face like the future timelines, the ones that the soul wants to grow into and explore. There are many examples of those outdated teachings. I just want to say those teachings from like ancient past and more recent past, there are things that are valuable. There are things that will always stay true. But then there are many things that we have outgrown, or we were supposed to outgrow as humankind. And I don't want to give so many like examples here because sometimes it can be beneficial still for some souls to go back into those outdated teachings. But you will always know when you are interacting with them that your life is somehow stagnating. It's somehow falling apart. And you will definitely, if you are sensitive, feel it in your solar plexus chakra. Not to leave you completely in the blind, some of these outdated past teachings, those old timelines, could be, this is very like controversial topic, but like in ancient past we know that we have worshipped different forms of gods and goddesses. Now those gods and goddesses basically are personifications of certain aspects of source consciousness that operate at certain dimensions, higher and lower dimensions. And We also, of course, have the fourth dimension just above us. And on the level of the lower and middle part of that fourth dimension, there can be thought forms, emotional forms that pretend to be something that they are not. They pretend to be some kind of higher beings. And sometimes, in ancient past, when people worshipped all kinds of things, they were actually unintentionally tapping into that 4D entities or thought forms. And they can look completely real. It still happens nowadays when people are channeling beings. Many of those beings that are channeling are nothing else than thought forms from the fourth dimension. So just something to keep in mind that it can happen. It doesn't mean that it always happens, but it may. And so the ego can be like, oh, let's go back into the past and do it exactly the same way as before. Or let's start using rituals to upgrade our spiritual evolution. You don't need any tools. You don't need any rituals to evolve your consciousness. If you were put on earth just because you need to figure out the right tool or ritual, otherwise you are screwed, that wouldn't make any sense. You have everything that you are seeking inside of yourself. And there are some teachers and some people that help you unlock it, and they help you access it. But you do have it within yourself. You don't need anything external. And I could give you a list of things that I see people using, and it actually takes them away from what's on the inside. But you can see for yourself what works and what doesn't. You really know when something is connected more to those past timelines that you just don't have energy, like in the long term. Maybe you are like burned out, things are really falling apart, they don't feel good. Now, we also have parallel timelines. Those would be that exist like they are closer to us, they are not in so-called past. And those parallel timelines are actually good because imagine that this is your soul's energy. And when you're tapping into those parallel timelines, your soul's energy is growing like this way. It's becoming more spacious. When you're tapping into those parallel timelines, typically you notice that your spiritual gifts are getting stronger. And perhaps you are even accessing new spiritual gifts. You are accessing all kinds of skills and remembering things from within yourself that you have mastered, and you are pulling them into that present moment. Then we have the future timelines, and those are basically the teachings and pieces of wisdom and frequencies and different spectrum of light that God wants us to weave into the collective consciousness at this point to get rid of those outdated old timelines. So those teachings are pure. And you have a sense of your heart chakra is expanding. It feels really good in your heart when you are interacting with that. And your health, your relationship, your job improves. You have more vitality, more life force energy flowing through you. And those future teachings from future timelines, they feel good. They feel very centered. They make you feel steady joy. It's not this kind of let's look for some sensations that's typically connected to those past timelines. Now you can also meet people from those past timelines. In that case, your ego is more attracted to them. So if you check deep into your heart tells you, there's something awkward here. Something doesn't work here. I also talked about it in my other videos. I don't remember the names, but it's something about karma, karmic relationships. I talked more deeply about those types of people. You can also meet people from your future timelines. And with those people, you don't have any karma. And they are not supporting your illusions. and you are mutually growing together. So it's very beneficial. So I just wanted to give you this picture to really see that the ego can pull us into different kind of timeline because it can get confused. It likes to think linearly, which doesn't really work on the soul level anymore. And so it can go backwards in time to something that used to work, but we have outgrown it and think that's the thing. It stays attached to it. It doesn't update it. So just keep it in mind. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next video. And I see you next time.